Welcome to episode 11 of the DWRD Net Stationary Feed. My guest today is Jaclyn Myers of Kaleidocraft. Jaclyn, welcome, and please introduce yourself and give us a brief overview about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Jaclyn, and recently I launched a small little side company called Kaleidocraft. We do 3D printing and some other crafts, like on top of 3D printing. It's myself and my partner, Laura.
Awesome. So, to get started, I have a kind of list of standard questions that kind of talks about the stationary hobby as a whole and how some of your preferences and whatnot. So, starting off, what do you currently have inked? What have you been writing with lately?
Sure. So I didn't change anything. Okay, I just have my little pin case here, my Rickshaw Knock collab, and I'll just walk through it really quick. I got 5 things in here. The only normal nib, and this will become a little bit of a theme in here, is a Sailor Broad on this little sparkly dude. Everything else is just like a really weird nib. There is a Jonathan Brooks here, an old one from like, I don't know, 2018 or something, and then a Ralph Reyes nib in there. It's like a stacked music nib. Um, Another Jonathan Brooks. He did a little Urushi for me. I got this when I finished my dissertation in graduate
Very
school. It's
cool.
gold and black for Purdue. So that's what that one is, and that one has like another weird stacked type of nib on that guy. And then I just have one of my favorite platinums here that I have taken another section off of and put it on here with a Naginata Togi grind on there. And then the last one is just like the pen that I carry everywhere. It's just a Kaweco brass. I upgraded this with a gold nib, and it's a Cursive Italic. It's very inky right now. I carry that everywhere. Usually has like a black permanent ink in it. That thing has been beat up and all over the world. And it's just kind of the thing that I take everywhere. So
Cartridge or converter in the sport?
in the sport right now, it's a cartridge, but a lot of times I will do a converter with like a Pilot Black in
Gotcha.
there. So yeah.
Okay, so if you had no budget, what would be your grail pen?
Yeah, this one is really hard. I mean, I think for me, and you can kind of tell why what is currently into my bag there, I'm a big nib person, right? Nib customization is a thing for me. So I guess for the pen body, it could be any make. I mean, probably if someone could make me a rainbow Urushi, I would, I don't even know if that's possible, but it'd be something like that, something really cool that a maker would make. And then the nib would be the thing for me. So Strings and Petals, right, has this amazing harmonic nib that would be absolutely at the top of my list if I did not have a budget. Or like Sailor obviously has a ton of different specialty kinds of nibs. So any of those, like the Cross Concord, the Cross Music, the Emperor, any of these kinds of nibs like that. So if I had a grail pen, it would be, and it could be, if the pen could take both, that would be awesome. So that is the kind of thing that I would get into if I had no budget.
No, and if you're listening to the audio, I did have a pop up some of the examples of the Opus Cineris nib from Annabelle and some of the Sailor nibs. So definitely check it out, the video version, if you're listening on audio, just to see the beautiful nibs, because that's
Yeah,
important.
they're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about inks? Do you stick with your known favorites, or do you like to experiment with new colors, different brands, or a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
of mixture of both?
So I do have a few different kinds of ink that I use on a regular basis, but mostly for me it's all about variety. I mean, just in my stationery collection in general, I like a lot of different things. So, yeah, I have way too many inks, and I prefer to kind of switch it up and use them all if I can.
Now, I know one thing I do is when I get a new ink, that becomes my go-to for a while until I get the next new ink. So do you do that as well with the little phases of the new, and then, there's something else, and then go back to the favorites?
For sure, for sure. I think for me too, like the match of the pen and the ink is really important. So sometimes I will try a specific ink and a pen, and that's just it from then on out, with that specific pen, because it's just such a good match. So I do sometimes get on a kick of like, this is the match that I like, and I'm using that up. Yeah.
No, I definitely have that. When I did my interview with Eric from Amarillo, I have not stopped writing with the Amarillo pen, and I have the Earn Kicks orangish red in here,
Ooh.
and I've already written it like halfway empty, and that's been like a week. So
Yeah, great. That's a great
that color
match.
match is just perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that covers pens and inks. What about paper? do you stick to known brands? Do you like to try different papers? What are your paper preferences?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like the boring answer, like Tomo River 52 GSM is just tops and probably will be forever. So if I'm playing with ink, I'm probably playing with an old notebook and using that. But I did have two other ones that I think are kind of just a little not different, but when I'm doing basic work stuff, the Submari Man, that is top for me. It's just, it still shows the ink properties and that kind of stuff, but it just all my to-do, I mean, you can tell I'm using it, like all my to-do list and my real work job stuff's in there, and business stuff. That's what I'm probably using. I love that thing, and you can rip out the pages and I don't have to worry about it and that kind of thing. And then the other thing, Anna's coloring this huge this huge folio. If you don't have one of these and you're like an ink person, you definitely need one of these. I love this thing. The paper is obviously huge, and if I want to see all my blue inks at once, I'm going there. Or a mind map. Like when we first started the business and had no idea what we were doing, we just listed like 200 products on the page, and we're like mind mapping and stuff like that. And I do Inkvent on there too, so like a little Christmas tree, and I can see all the Inkvent colors at once. So I love that thing for playing with things.
No, that's nice. The Maruman, I actually just recently released a video talking about the Maruman, like you're showing, versus the Spiral Note, which is kind of the entry level brand. Because I use
Yeah.
Maruman all the time, and so because of the perforated pages, I actually have, it's going to be delivered tomorrow, timely, a plotter A5 cover where I'm going to start ripping out, punching, and then sorting my work notes, because recently started a new job, so I'm taking all these notes and they're in the worst order ever, because it says as you talk to people and come across things. So I'm like, I gotta sort. So that's on my
I love
horizon.
that. That's all my work stuff, and like, I obviously have like a real day job and this stuff that I'm doing and home stuff and to-do lists and stuff. So, and yeah, it is 100% just like one page is one thing, another page is one. So it's really nice to be able to rip it out of there and rearrange and stuff. So
yeah. So, and then my favorite question that I've asked everybody so far: what is your favorite stationery adjacent item that you use? An example might be a bag, a case, a tray. What's your favorite stationery adjacent item?
this one was hard. If the stuff that we make, it's a lot of stationery adjacent stuff, and that's because I love that stuff. I love the accessories. I think that really just takes it to a whole nother level, and it's super fun. So what I went with is it's a wooden tray. It looks like this. I got this actually at Wonder Pins, which is a shop in Canada. When I went up there for the Scriptus, the Toronto show several years ago. But I just love it. It's just, simple, beautiful. It just has lived on my desk ever since. We use it on our table at shows now as well. But it's just cool. It's handmade and beautiful, and I love it. So.
No, those trays, I want to get a tray, but I'm too indecisive because I don't have a good spot to put the tray.
Yeah.
And I want to have a good spot before I get it. And then it comes down to color, because I know I think it was at Atlanta, NFP was there, had some of their trays, and there's options, because then you have decision paralysis of which tray do I want. So
many options.
I'm doing that initial research so that when it's time, I know which one to order.
You'll be ready.
Or if it comes up in a sale or something like that. But
yeah.
So let's move on to the important part, Jaclyn and Kaleidocraft. So I know you're not new to the pen community. So start about talking about how you got started in the stationery hobby as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, I think stationery was always a thing for me. There's a story that has been told to me about myself that when I was like 3 and 4, there's like tiny little erasers that might be in the shape of animals or whatever. I would carry them around in like handfuls in the car and stuff, and like cry if I would drop even one. So I think just in general, stuff like that I've always been into. And I did a lot of graduate school and way too many years of school. I was very into like gel pens and that kind of thing at the time. But when it comes to fountain pens, I kind of I backward slid into the into the analog or fountain pen community. I've always been a big tech person as well, especially Apple, big Apple person, and so I listen to a lot of Relay FM, my curly shows all the time. And Mac Power Users is something I've just been listening to that show forever. So David Sparks from that show one day happened to mention the Pen Addict, and I distinctly remember I was at work, and I'm a pharmacist by trade, so I came out of the pharmacy into the nurse's station, and I was like, guys, this person on this podcast just bought a pen and it was $300. And I just thought that was the most insane thing I'd ever heard. And then the story just went from there. I just started listening to it regularly, and I got hooked almost immediately. So but no one ever since.
I wonder if Brad ever takes a moment and realize how many people his podcast has pulled into the
Yeah.
hobby or
You know,
enabled to the level that it's become. Because I was just listening to the latest friend of the show, and it was almost like what you said was scripted, but it was Lisa from All of Octopus, where I was listening to the tech podcast, and then
yep.
somebody talked about this pin guy, and then
Yep.
that started down a rabbit hole. So it seems like that's a common
Yep.
theme.
Yeah, it's just one of those things when you hear it, you're like so intrigued that you kind of like can't help but, look a little deeper, and then, certain ones of us we get hooked, and yeah, that's how we got here. So,
Yeah, curiosity probably enabled more people than, oh, a
absolutely.
fountain pen.
Absolutely.
Well, let's
Yeah.
see what it's about. Let me get the starter one, and then you quickly go down into the rabbit hole. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so I know you were a contributor for the Well Appointed Desk in the past. So how did that come to be? And did you ever write anywhere else besides for Well Appointed?
Sure. Okay, so I'll try to go in a little bit of time order here, but I probably got into the pin hobby like late 2015, okay, a while ago, and then around 2016, I don't know, I just wanted some kind of outlet to kind of like go over what I was learning, and have a place to just talk about things, and also like get connected to the community, right? Kind of put my voice out there. So I started a little blog called Hypothesis. I was in graduate school at the time, so it had a very like scientific creative experiment kind of feel. I did like a lot of pin tests and pin versus pin and ink tests and stuff like that. For shows, I went to Chicago and Ohio. That was 2016. And then by 2017, I was like working at shows behind a table with someone that worked on nibs. And so that's really how I really got deep into the hobby. That's how I met a ton of people that are very dear to me, very dear friends to me now. But that was such a good time. I got, up and from 2017 to 2020, when the show obviously stopped for a while. I was going to all of the shows, ton of shows. And that's kind of how I got hooked up with Anna. Anna is one of my best friends, and just one of the best people in the world. But so we got talking, and I think when 2020 hit, I was actually at the Arkansas Pin Show, and I got a call from my hospital. I was an investigational drug pharmacist at the time, so all of the COVID meds, my job like overnight turned into like a 24/7 coverage thing with
Oof.
COVID, and so that became a very busy period of my life, obviously. And show stopped, and that was my main way to connect with the community. So I don't know, just talking with Anna, writing for Well Appointed Desk was something that kind of kept me a little connected. That period of my life also was very busy, obviously, like with all the COVID stuff. And I was finishing my dissertation at the time. And then just some personal things in my life kind of like got to a point where I realized I just was not the best version of myself. I'll say that. And so I just kind of needed to step away for a bit and kind of focus on me. So yeah, I was away for a little bit. I think I tease Anna that I was like the most delinquent writer ever at the Well Appointed Desk, because I really didn't write that much. But every opportunity that I got right there, I absolutely loved it. I have one of my favorite posts that I did there was about like ink tools, and it's funny because the back I mean, now like when I watch All of Octopus now, like there's a lot more stuff available in terms of like the ink muddlers and stuff. I recently got a few of those types of things, but at this time, like whenever this was 20 whatever, there just wasn't as much available, or not that I knew of. So I'm over here in this post like trying like cake decorating tools and plastic sticks and just like various things. So I had a lot of fun doing this. I loved writing for Anna, and I still stay very connected to the blog. And like I said, Anna's one of my best friends. So very, very cool experience for me at the time. Yeah.
No, and we'll be sure and look at the show notes. We'll put a link to the full list of articles that Jaclyn wrote for Well Appointed Desk, as well as the ink swatching tool, because it is interesting to see, because that was October of 2020,
Yeah.
how in the last 5 years, the ink swatching and whatnot has become more of a thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that
it's crazy. Yeah, it's so funny coming back to the hobby, right? Because I mean, even my collection and my knowledge and stuff, I have like everything possible from 2016 to 2021, and then it's just like missing for like 2022 to 2025, But man, things have changed so much, and it's so cool to see like all the new makers. So many more people are into ink and swatching now, and just the new people, right, that are connected to the hobby. So that has been really, really fun for me. And I guess what I'll say, there's another post, and I'll have you link to it, Derek, but where I talked about kind of burnout with COVID and me struggling to get reconnected to the hobby, and that's on Well Appointed Desk. And one of the things I was talking about in there is just do it, just reconnect. If you've been away, or you haven't responded to a text, or you haven't sent a letter, just like slap a stamp on a postcard and send it. Drop into Slack for 5 minutes. Go on a Twitch. There's so many awesome safe spaces that people have created. You don't have to be producing a blog. You don't have to be producing anything. Like, I feel like we are creating a community, and just being a part of that, that's huge. I would recommend, like I keep saying her name, Olive Octopus, that Twitch. I would recommend Brad's Twitch, and Aziza, for my pens. Those are all super safe spaces, even if you are struggling or are in that kind of space. So I would totally recommend connecting or reconnecting within a community. Just so many awesome people. So yeah.
No, and I can fully relate, because I was into pins, going to shows in 2015, 2016, had my pins at work, but then when I stopped going to an office, I stopped writing because I wasn't traveling for work. I wasn't
Right.
carrying my, Brasstown knock roll with me and getting on a plane, a week a month to go to wherever. And I kind of fell out of the hobby a little bit too, until the ink vent of 2024. I was like,
Love
my
it.
wife had recently gotten to pens. We're like, you know what? Let's do the ink vent calendar. And here we are. I coming back into the hobby, it was like a different approach. So I fully
Mhm.
get where you're coming from of coming back into it. It's a different set of eyes, and it's amazing how much stuff changes in that short amount of time. So I fully
Absolutely.
relate to all that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as a follow up to that, now you're coming back to the community with Kaleidocraft prints. So how did that come to be? And starting this new involvement, this or reinvigorated involvement in the stationery world.
Yeah. So 2 Christmases ago, I got 2 boys in my life. Laura has 2 boys, and we got them like a tiny toy box 3D printer, and like they liked it, but I think I loved it. And I really just kind of got into 3D printing. So this last Christmas, Laura got me a bamboo, like a real, like one of these guys back here. And just ever since then, we kind of started, we printed stuff for local people, our friends, people at work, party decorations, holiday decor. We just kind of started printing stuff. And of course, me being me, right? I was like, okay, there's got to be stationery, something I can do here. Like there's got to be something related to pens that I can print. And pretty quickly, I had a couple of things that I'm like, hey, I really like this. I like this. This is making me excited to have this on my desk. So yeah, when we decided to make it a business, I just kind of, Laura and I were talking, as in terms of selling things or whatever, my really only experience in life is at pin shows, right? Working those tables. So I thought, I don't know if people will like this, but I think maybe just going to a Chicago show and trying this out. Let's go for it. Let's do it. So we are really into crafting. I think like crafting is just happening constantly at our house. So like the company was just kind of a natural fit for Laura and I. We're always making things anyway, and 3D printing, I guess, kind of gives us like that canvas to do that. So yeah.
So 3D printing question in general, because everybody I know with a 3D printer, they start with one and then they have a farm.
Yep.
Have you had the 3D printer sprawl?
Yeah. So there's you can't see all of them, but there's 4 over there now. So yeah, we went quickly, right? So from December until now, one to 4. So yeah, it's been a quick growth. I think we're gonna run out of space eventually, Derek. So I don't think we're ever gonna make it to a farm quite in this house currently. But yeah, it's been fun to grow it and keep adding the printers.
I just had it's probably a really bad joke, but I'm going to say it anyway. We used to go on Facebook for Farmville. Now it's 3D printing farms. It's a whole different type of farm.
It is. It's a whole different thing. Yeah, there's all kinds of 3D printing. And I think for us, like, there's a lot of the same thing again and again and again, a lot of times with some of the 3D printing that we had seen. So just doing something a little different, bringing some color and fun and pink and glitter, and adding some like crafts on top of it, UV resin or that kind of thing. It's been really fun.
So to follow up with that, how do you think 3D printing is able to add and enhance the hobby? I mean, obviously there's little tidbits that can, the pen tray or something, but like you said, you're creating stuff that's different, some stuff that's new, stuff that's, I know, seeing from Chicago, fidgety stuff to have on your desk to sit there while you're in a meeting, you can be playing with, because that's important to keep, something to do, because most of us in the stationery hobby, we're fidgeters. I mean, I know
Yeah,
I am. I have to have something on the desk, when I'm working to keep my attention span.
100%. I think it's sort of a natural fit, to be honest, right? Because there's that tactileness, like these fidgets or whatever. We're just kind of that. A lot of stationary people are that kind of person, right? Where you just like that tactile feel. You just like to have something in hand, the physical product. So to me, that's a little bit of a natural fit. Also, just like the materials that are available, it's kind of very similar to a lot of other pen products or things on the market where, there's glitter, there's rainbow gradient, there's glow in the dark, there's metallic. The options are endless. And in terms of customization, we're also very specific kinds of people, right? We want like a specific nib and a specific pen and a specific shape, right? I don't want my ink file sticking out too much. I want it to like fit perfectly. So I think that's a really, really good fit. It excites me that like as I grow as a designer, I have so many options of being able to create things that are like just perfect for the kinds of things that stationary people want. And then for me personally, I think the price point, right? What I'm making is it's of course we're not unimpacted by the price raises, raising and all that things that are happening right now in the market. But overall, in terms of the type of material that you're using when you're 3D printing, it's decently affordable. So I love that we can offer things at an accessible price point. And I think that's a really important piece in the pen community, that we keep, a variety of exciting things that people are able to buy. You should be able to walk into a pen show with, $20 or $30 and come home with like a mini haul or something you're excited about.
Yeah.
So I love being able to target that end of the market where, beginners or anyone like can come into a show with a small budget and hopefully, walk out with something they're really excited about. So I love that. And with that, I'm definitely one of those people that I just, when I'm at my best, I'm like giving things away. So because we make things that are at that price point, it's so easy for me to be able to, if someone's having a hard time, just send them something. Or, St. Jude in September, stuff for that is coming up. Be able to make something for that and hopefully contribute and like give a little bit back to the community. And so like having a venue and a way to be able to do that, I'm very excited about.
No, that's great. And I know when I go to pen shows, and Arkansas was the last one I went to, and before that it had been quite a few years, but you go in there, you buy the pen that kind of breaks the bank initially, and then you're like, oh, I'm here for 2 more days. I need to find the little stuff, the little things to add on. And that's where the 3D printed items are great, because it's something to talk about. It's a conversation piece,
Right. Yeah,
keyboard
people were
switches.
people were putting these like on their conference, like on their badges, right? And I just love that. I did not think of that, but people started doing it, and like so, for $5, you feel a part of it. You can kind of feel a part of the show and what's going on there. So yeah, it's super super fun.
So that leads me into the next question I had written down is, from seeing on social media between YouTube videos and Instagram and whatnot, it seems like, the launch at the Chicago Pen Show was an overall success. So just talk about that, being at a table or being behind a table at a pen show with your stuff, not selling someone else's stuff. How was that?
Yeah, it was wild. It was, first of all, very nerve-wracking. Like I said, I kind of had an idea, like, okay, I like this stuff. I'm a stationary person. Maybe someone else will like this stuff too, kind of make the stuff you like. But it was amazing. I mean, I barely have, I think, words to say what a positive experience it was for both Laura and I. Like watching people react to the stuff, like the happiness that people had when they came to our table and they were discovering the stuff it was just so fun. And I think basically, to sum it up, there was this guy that came to the table and he was playing with one of our fidget pens, which kind of like open, they do this kind of thing. So he was pretty mesmerized by that. And at the end, he just said, this is the thing that has brought me the most joy today, and I just loved that. It's just like a silly little pen, but I think that is really at the heart of it. I loved being able to like bring that joy to people. And I don't think silly little 3D printed items are going to fix any of the problems we have in the world today, obviously, but just having something on your desk that you have a story behind that makes you happy, like brings a smile to your face, that's kind of what we're getting after. So yeah, Chicago was absolutely, beyond my expectations. It was awesome.
So I just had a follow-up question that popped in my head. How trippy is it going to be at the next show you go to see some of your stuff hanging from someone's lanyard with their rickshaw or hanging from their bag, where you're like, wait, I made that. They bought stuff and they're coming back.
It's wild, man. Like even just seeing the stuff online and stuff, like the reaction was so far beyond what I had anticipated. Um, yeah, it's just been amazing. I can't even describe it. It's just so cool. Like, yeah, we sit here and make it. I do a lot of the printing, and then like Laura does a ton of the assembly and the finishing and stuff. But like to have something that we spent all that time on, you know, printing and assembling and gluing and checking and all that stuff, and then you know have it out in the world. It's so cool. It's really fun. Oh.
So obviously Chicago was the launch, but do you have any other shows on the schedule for this year at this point?
Yeah, St. Louis. We will be in St. Louis officially, so we're really excited about that at the end of June. That's our only official show for the rest of this year. We kind of wanted to obviously like see how Chicago would go right before we committed to much more. But I'm hoping next year to really grow that. I'd love to at DC and either Baltimore or Philly, and of course Chicago, and hopefully St. Louis again too. So definitely plans to grow. But yes, we will be in St. Louis, and we can't wait. We'll have several new products there. I'll show you one if you want, Derek. It's a little nib holder that we're working on, and various
Nice.
different materials. Yeah, we'll have several new things there, and it'll be fun.
You know, I was just thinking with your article we pulled up because it's still up on my other monitor. You need to make a little swatching tool.
I
So kind of
do,
like the nib
yeah.
holder, find some sort of little metal greebly part that you can print the handle and merge the two together and make the Kaleidocraft swatching tool
Yeah,
because that would be cool.
100%. Yeah, these actually screw. It has like a nib. It screws in this thing, so you can
Yeah.
actually interchange it out. So totally, you are going exactly down where I would like to go because not only can I make something that fits, you know, this kind of nib or a G nib, I can totally make something that would fit something else. So yes, that kind of customization is what I'm very excited about.
No, very cool. So I know you announced recently through your or through Instagram that you have a website coming. So
Yes,
talk about that experience of the whole process of deciding, okay, we've made all these products. These are the things that sold well at a show, but website traffic is probably a little bit different than, you know, walk up to a table traffic. So just talk about the journey of creating the website and, you know, how you've gone through that, how you decide what products you're going to put on there, and when are we going to be able to see that website?
good question. Good question. Yeah. So the process itself, it's been a lot, you know, like getting something going from just like making a few things or like you said taking it live to a show to, you know, trying to get it up online where, you know, you need to deal with pricing, shipping, photos, you know, descriptions, disclaimers, on and on and on, right? I have learned so much. We have learned, Laura and I've learned so much in like the last couple of months. It's insane. But yes, so and deciding what kind of products we're going to put on there, that is so hard. We basically sat down with everything and we just kind of like almost did a draft between myself and her of like, this is what I think, you know, and of course we can alter that over time. But yes, so this will be the first time, Derek, you're the first one here to hear, okay, outside of Laura and myself, but it will be launching, I think the day after this will, you know, be available to be viewable by everyone Friday, June 7th. So Friday, June 7th, you'll be able to go to our website, hopefully, and make purchases. And if you go there now, you can kind of sign up for an email where you'll get an alert, where it will alert you when that is open.
No, and let me bring that up here. I have just so people can see if I hit the right button. You know, there's a, you know, definitely go check out the website. The link will be in, but when like like Jaclyn said, if you're listening to this, there's a good chance it's already live, so go buy
Right.
things. You know, you need to
Yeah,
get
come
a
check it out.
dog nose booper because that's one of the things that my wife has told me. We are ordering a dog nose booper first thing.
Yeah, yep. So we've got those in several colors, and for Pride coming up, we're even doing like a rainbow booper. So yeah, we'll have lots of fun things on there. We're starting with about 10 magnets, which we do like little. I'll show you one. We do like little magnet things that can stick on the front of pen blocks and different things. And clickers, 10 clickers, and about 10 other like stationary type of ink vial, pen holder, pen accessories. So that's what we're trying to launch with. And then from there, we're just hoping, you know, lots of small drops where I'll continually add more and more products to the list. So
No, very cool. So I didn't have this one down, but just since we were talking about Chicago, I'm curious. What was your best selling item? Like, what was the item that like was the most well? Two questions. What was the best
sure.
selling, and what was the most surprising that people loved it so much?
So, a couple of things. So it was funny because a couple of the things that I printed at the very last second, like in the last week, I was like, okay, I'll print this. Those sold out. So two of those things where there's like this little astronaut guy. He's a pen holder and he has ink. He can hold an ink vial or another pen in his head. That thing was super popular, sold out at the show. And then similar thing with there's like a macaron ink vial holder. It can hold like several ink vials. Printed that I think literally the day before we left from Chicago, sold out. So those things I think were probably most surprising to me, just because I had printed them at the last minute. Um, some of the clickers, honestly, were probably some of our best sellers, or the pens themselves. We sold a ton. We did I'll grab one for you real quick. We did a couple of different pens. I guess I already showed you the fidget one, and then there's one that looks like this, and these take Pentel Energels. We have those in a bunch of different colors. So probably the pens, and then the clickers, specifically the dog nose, and then we have like a little nib one. So that was the nib clicker, the dog clicker, and the pens, I think, for sure, at Chicago, were our best sellers. So,
Very cool.
yeah.
I remember seeing tons of posts with the dog nose things and
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
And then the other one
Yeah.
I think I saw, and I don't want to misspeak, but did you have one that like held post-it notes or something? Was there something
Yes.
like that?
Yeah.
That looked
Yeah.
interesting as well.
Yeah, that's one of our bigger items. So we only had a few of those at the show, but we sold I think almost all but one of those maybe at the show, and those are basically like a little typewriter type of thing. The front of it is an actual clicker, so you can like click down on the keyboard, like click, 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 and then it holds like accordion style post-its, and you can pull them out of the top. So that one's pretty fun. I like that one.
Very cool. So I just have the one question left. Actually, I'm going to add one more in that I just thought of. When you were coming up with products, you said you and Laura made full big list, drafted it out. So what are some of the products that are not out yet, but you think might be that? Don't spoil everything, but what are the
Sure.
most exciting products that no one's seen yet to kind
Sure.
of give a little preview of?
Yeah, I mean, I think, fountain pens are, it's the fountain pen community, or like we really like fountain pens, obviously, a lot of people in the community. So like I am looking right now, I'm not going to show you, but I'm looking right now at a 3D printed fountain pen on my desk that we've made, that I'm working with a designer on. So I think, going in that direction towards that kind of fountain pen, like just seeing people's reactions to the gel pens, I would love to carry that forward to fountain pens. So getting deeper into the pen part, obviously that involves like sourcing nibs and a lot of other
Yeah.
things that we need to work towards, but very excited about that. Yeah. So, and then I think I'll just say on the website, you're going to be able to, the pen blocks that we have. So there's one like this that's really made for ink vials. They're magnetic. And then there's one like this for pens. So on our website, you're going to be able to completely customize your own. So
Oh,
you'll be
very
able to
cool.
say, okay, I want like 3 ink vial spots, but 3 pen spots, and I want it to be a square. I want it to be long. I want it to be this color. And, I want the top of it to have glitter or not, so you're kind of going to be able to choose your own adventure with that. And I'm pretty excited about that as well. So
Are you going to be able to choose diameter? And the reason why I ask is I have this comically large pen, the new Junlai thing that
I love it.
has the
I love it.
massive, and it doesn't fit in my rickshaw. It doesn't fit in anything. So I was just curious.
Yep.
Or I also like the Opus 88s, the big pens.
Yes.
Are you able to choose what diameter so it can hold the crazy pens?
Yeah, so the current like size hole in there is like big enough for every, king of pen size, definitely big
Okay.
enough for that. Probably not that yours, but yes, 100% we would be able to customize and make you like a giant, pen hole as one of your options. Yeah, you'll be able to fully customize the size. Obviously, you'd have to tell me the size of it so I could print it correctly for you, but yes.
No, and that's great, because that's one thing with the pen maker community and off the shelf pens. There's a lot of standard sizes, but people are making new stuff now that's different. Like I have from D Squared Arts, it's square because it's hand
Yes.
carved. So there's those kind of quirky pens, and I'm in my maker pen era. Like
Yeah,
everything
I
I'm
love it.
getting now are maker pens.
I love it.
And
Yep.
I'm like, okay, what are the crazy ones? I want the one that doesn't look normal. I want the oddball looking
Yeah.
pins or the crazy things. So having stands and cases for those, that's going to be a big thing, I think, going forward, because look at how many makers were at the shows. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the new trend now. The maker with the custom engraved nibs. So whenever you have your 3D printed fountain pen with the engraved nibs, you'll
Yep.
have the cases for
Yeah.
holding that as well. So, for the final question, what's next for Kaleidocraft prints?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Obviously, the website launch is what we're focused on right now, and then St. Louis shortly after that. I have several different new products we're preparing for St. Louis that we're excited about. But with the website, we're hoping to do a couple of cool little things. Every month, we'll have certain products that are marked on the website where a percentage of the profits are going to go to the Trevor Project, which is the LGBTQ cause. So we're excited about that, just to give back a little bit. Same thing with St. Jude. So in September, when you come to our site, anything you buy from us, a percentage of our profits are going to go to St. Jude for the entire month. So I'm really excited to be able to start engaging in that way. A website kind of opens the door to be able to do that kind of thing. We're really, really excited about that. And then, yeah, just, I mean, the sky's the limit, I guess, like going into the future, like I said, I'd love to be able to get a fountain pen on the market, a nib holder, and those kind of things, and just increase our presence next year with additional pen shows. So
No, and that's great. As I've started doing this interview series, I'm learning so much about all these small businesses that tie into the stationery world, and
yeah,
everybody knows everybody, and it's just this weird, like you said, the community is so tight knit, but it's
yeah,
also so inviting that you learn about new things all the time. Because I learned about Kaleidocraft before I saw the Chicago show. Oh, Olive Octopus was saying, "Hey, Jaclyn was talking about these products," and then I saw Brad reference it. So,
yeah,
between Twitch and YouTube and the Discords for everything, there's all these little pockets of community that all are common enough, but then have their specialized conversation. So it's cool to have something that's kind of bridging the gap, and
yeah,
bringing more variety, so that when you go
yeah,
to a pen show, it's not every table has the exact same thing. It's something different, because I think that's what people are looking for: less expensive and different. Because
yeah,
do we really need another pen? No. Are we going to get one? Yes, but we
yes,
also want to get stuff to go with
yes,
it. So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of filling that gap of the like lower end of the market, and yeah, just something totally and completely different.
well,
Yeah,
and just the little function, like one of my local pen shops has like a little ink miser that
yeah,
I picked one up because you know what? This big pen, I can't put the nib in most of my ink bottles because it's so big. So you have to have
yeah.
little things like that, and 3D printing really, you know, brings that it makes a lot of pen things more accessible to a wider audience. So
100%.
um
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's the goal. I love that. We create our own problems for ourselves, like that one, right? Where like you make a pin so big, then you can't fill it, or whatever it is. You make a pin so big, you have nothing to store it in. So yeah, that customization part of 3D printing, I'm so excited to be able to bring some things to market like that are very specific for people. I don't have to order 1,000 of something to carry it in my shop. I can make a few of them, and that's okay. So I'm very excited to be able to do some of that custom stuff, and like you said, hopefully bring it to a new audience.
No, that's great. So once again, thank you for taking some time to talk tonight. I look forward to the website launch, on June 7th. So if you're listening or watching to this after that, you need to already go to the website and pick something up. If not, and you're listening to this in advance, then to be on the morning of the 7th, ready to go look,
Be ready
see,
to go.
and pick up your first item, or pick up your additional item if you already got the chance to pick something up in Chicago. So once again, thanks to Jaclyn with Kaleidocraft for taking some time this evening. If you're new to the DWRD Net stationery feed, we're on YouTube. Be sure and check it out, because as we do these interviews, people hold things up, they show visual, but if you don't have that option, we are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So until next time, thanks for listening.